Any new car from Maruti comes with big expectations, and this one, the all-new second generation Celerio, is no different. It's got a whole lot of expectations behind it. Think about it. As an entry-level car, it's going to be bought by a lot of first-time car buyers, and we put our first cars through a lot. They've got to take us shopping, they've got to get us to work, they've got to go to parties with our friends, they've got to do the airport drops, long highway trips, offbeat vacations. Now, is this little Celerio up to the task? That's what we're going to find out in today's review. Well, let me be honest, when I saw the pictures, I didn't quite like it. I'm still no big fan, but I can tell you in the flesh, it looks a whole lot nicer. Now, that's a personal opinion. I'd love to hear what you think about the looks, and let us know in the comments down below. But let me take you around. So at the front, as you can see, it's a lot more rounded than the earlier car. In fact, the overall theme is a more rounded theme. The earlier Celerio, the previous generation, was more straight-lined. This one has a lot of curves. And there's quite a lot of interesting details, like the chrome bit that cuts through the grille and touches the headlights, which are rounded and flow backward into the bodywork. The lower bumper has a very large black cladding area, and the fog lights are neatly set into it. So on the whole, the front end has quite a lot of nice elements to it. Now let's move over to the side, and one thing that I really like is the alloy wheels. They look quite nice, they are blacked out, and they're 15-inch, which is an inch larger than the previous car, and they fill out the wheel wells quite nicely. The rest of the sides follow the same curvy design, and the doors have multiple contours, which is a nice design detail. What's odd though is the switch to lift type handles instead of the pull ones on the earlier car, and the integration of the keyhole and keyless entry button, which both look like afterthoughts. Now moving over to the rear, as you'll see, there aren't that many design flourishes. It's fairly straightforward. Your tail lights, to me, they kind of remind me of the Baleno unit, look fairly decent. And of course, you've got your rear wiper with a defogger as well. Now, one thing I do want to show you though, which I really like on this car, is the boot. Now, the new Celerio has grown in length, and Maruti have used that to increase the boot space and the legroom to an extent. Take a look inside. That's really large. Now, to give you a perspective of just how big that is, I just happen to have two really large suitcases with me. This one is a check-in bag, right? And as you can see, I don't have to remove the parcel shelf and place it vertically. I can put it down, move it to its side, and there you go. And there's enough space for another cabin bag, right? And again, lays down flat. Pretty neat. In fact, I think I could get another set of suitcases right on top of here. So that's really pretty impressive, especially given that this is a small car. The volume is up from 235 liters to 313, making it the best in class. So airport drops will be no problem. And if you still need more space, you can fold down the 60-40 split rear seats. And while it is a small car, the move to Suzuki's hardtech platform has helped grow the Celerio. The hardtech platform underpins the new range of Marutis and has also helped lower the weight of the new Celerio, which at 800 kilos is about 15 kgs lighter than the previous base version. Height is lower by 5 mm, but the new car is 55 mm wider and the wheelbase is 10 mm longer too. So the other bit that's also increased is the rear legroom. Now this seat is set to my driving position, and as you can see, I've got a fair amount of knee room here. I'm about 5'8", and so two adults sitting behind each other wouldn't have that much of a problem. The rest of the bits inside, they're pretty standard as you'd expect. What I don't like, however, is these little head restraints here. This molded one is just too short, not really safe or comfortable. The other bit is the power windows here. They are shared with the front passengers as you do in some other hatchbacks. Having them on the windows would have been nicer though. At the front, there's a whole lot new, and I must say, this is to me, well, the biggest really improvement over the old Celerio. The earlier Celerio was a pretty simple, straightforward dashboard. This one's got a lot of nice elements to it, and it does look quite nice. The etching all around looks quite convincing. Although they are hard plastics, they don't really look like that. And the design elements are really quite nice and funky. The speedometer looks really nice. It's got this little tacho, digital tacho screen nestled in there. You've got the touch screen up here, which does catch reflections, especially at the outer edge. But the 7-inch unit is a very good one. It's got a good clear resolution, a smooth pinch to zoom, and Android Auto and Apple CarPlay connectivity. Switchgear quality is also good, and they all operate satisfyingly, including the controls for the manual climate control system. Storage is pretty handy too. You've got cup holders here that can take a decent sized bottle. You've got cup holders here and a nice little sloping shelf which you can put your wallet and your phone quite neatly in there too. A lot of equipment is something that even entry-level buyers expect today, and while equipment like a reverse camera is missing, top spec cars have a fair share of features like hill hold assist, a driver's seat height adjuster, a 7-inch touchscreen, electrically folding outside rearview mirrors. And while the car has not been crash tested at global NCAP, it naturally meets the new Indian safety norms and has safety bits like dual airbags and ABS, along with a really nice large seatbelt reminder on the touchscreen as well. With the hardtech platform, build quality has also improved, and the new Celerio feels well put together, but something like the Tiago feels tougher. The other big change with the new generation Celerio is the engine. You'd be forgiven thinking it was the same. Both are 998cc and 3-cylinder units, and power and torque are near identical, the new one being just 1 horsepower and 1 Newton meter lower at 67 horsepower and 89 Newton meters of torque. But the new car uses what Maruti calls dual jet technology. What dual jet really is it means it's got 2 injectors per cylinder. It's not direct injection, but it's just 2 injectors to each cylinder. Thus, with an injector for each intake port, fuel and air mixing is much better, leading to higher efficiency. And that's the Celerio's big calling card. Maruti claims it's India's most fuel-efficient car with a figure of 26.68 km per litre for the VXI AMT, while the lowest figure is for the ZXI manual, which stands at 24.97 km per litre. This difference likely due to different tyre sizes and the weight. Helping achieve this figure is the addition of the auto stop-start system. If you're waiting like this in traffic, it will shut down the engine and it saves you that little extra bit of fuel. Now on a hot day, some of you may not like it because it does cut the AC system, although the blower does work fine. But remember, you can always switch it off down here. And what I really like about this system is that it's really quick. No sooner as you just put your foot on the pedal, the engine fires up and it's ready to go. Now behind the wheel, as you typically expect with really no change in power and torque figures, it doesn't feel all that different in terms of acceleration, but at lower revs it does feel a little more sprightly, a little more eager, and the power comes in nice and early and it builds up quite linear all the way to about 6,500 RPM. So it's really quite eager and sprightly in the cut and thrust of the city. Overtaking fast-moving traffic at times can be a challenge. You don't have all that much power to play with, so what you're going to have to do is downshift and then get a move on. On the whole, the new engine is smooth and refined, and the same goes for the AMT version too. In fact, in traffic like we are right now, slow moving, the AMT is really quite smooth as far as AMTs go. It isn't as smooth as a torque converter, but don't ask too much of it, and it just delivers quite nicely. The shifts are not really rapid, but that annoying head nod is better contained. Of course, you do have manual mode, so you can tip the lever over here and go plus or minus as you want. And shifts there are also quite quick and pretty much what you'd expect in a car of this class. Now the steering around town is nice and light and pretty effort free. Though having said that, like a lot of other Marutis, it doesn't really have enough feel and has a kind of huge dead zone. It's also pretty slow to respond, so it isn't what you'd call a quick steering. Now I know this isn't an enthusiast kind of car, but even then you'd expect there to be a little more feel and feedback. And another annoying bit is when you're in turns and, well, you expect the car to return, it doesn't. You've got to bring the wheel back. As you can see, it stays in that position, and it's only at certain times and certain roads and certain speeds and cambers where it does return. So yeah, if you have the habit of turning into a corner, relaxing your grip to let it turn back, this car isn't going to do that. The light steering and tight dimensions make it easy to park. A reverse camera or a guide that showed which direction the obstacle is in would have made things easier still. Now that lifeless steering aside though, driving through some bends like this is actually quite nice, mainly because the suspension, it's quite taut and firm and keeps the body in good control. So around faster bends you don't have that much body roll. So weekend outstation trips and long drives through ghats aren't going to leave passengers feeling motion sick. The firm suspension also soaks up bumps and rounds them off really well, and it's only sharp edges and small speed breakers taken at speed where the suspension does crash through. Priced between 4.99 lakh to rupees 6.94 lakh ex-showroom Delhi, it isn't killer pricing, and the Celerio goes up against credible competition like the Santro, the Tiago, and even its own sibling, the WagonR. But it comes prepared, with a new platform underpinning it, a refined engine, a good amount of room inside, a decent equipment list, and of course the claim to India's most fuel-efficient car, a big boon with the current high fuel prices. There's also a CNG version in the works for those who need lower running costs, and that huge boot will ensure a sizable tank. So, much like its predecessor, the new Celerio is certainly a very level-headed choice.